All right, what's up, you all? Can't wait for y'all to come in a little bit. Got my water in here. Do I have my water? Oh man, hold on. Be right back. 1 second. Let me get my water. Sorry about that, y'all. I had to get some water. I'm sorry. So I saw a video from a person I know, and me and a friend of mine have been talking about relationships for the past, really, I want to say 2 years, but really these past 2 weeks, we've really been talking about relationships. I'm gonna get on Elon Musk and Twitter. Well, first let me say this. What's up, y'all? Let me say this. Elon Musk is a liberal. Elon Musk was never a bad person until he bought Twitter. Like he was never racist. He was never like Elon Musk is a liberal superhero. So it's just funny that when he buys Twitter, now all of a sudden he's racist. Like it's just absolutely insane to me. But I'm gonna save that conversation for something else. We've been talking about relationships for the past 2 weeks really heavily. And my friend asked me a question. He said, when you ask someone how important are relationships, what do you think most people would answer? And I said most people would answer relationships are probably as important as maybe like they would say like 6 or 7. And he was like, right, when it should be 11 or 12 out of 10. And I thought about that, and I thought about how important relationships are to this whole thing that's going on. And over the past 2 years, even seeing a relationship that I even had myself fail, I realized something. I realized that the whole purpose of all of this, at the core of it, is to destroy relationships. That's the whole purpose of it, because they want to destroy family. And I guess a more important question would be for anyone is, why are these people so intent on destroying the family? Why do they want the family? What is it about the family structure that they want destroyed? Now, keep in mind, they don't mind the binary, trans, or gay family. They just don't want the man, the woman, and the child. So why would these global elite be so against, or these social engineers be so against destroying something that has everybody on the planet? Everybody on the planet comes from, for the most part, Instagram paused. Everybody on the planet, for the most part, comes from a heterosexual interaction, meaning man and woman create procreation. So why would these people be so against family, but not just any family, the man, the woman, and the child? Many folks will say depopulation. Many folks will say control. I will simply say to get rid of the family is to get rid of God. If you think about it, what would God's purpose be if all of humanity didn't exist? I believe that in God's infinite wisdom and infinite understanding, when God came to be God, I believe that God was love. And so God wanted to love. God not just wanted to love, God needed to love. This is why relationships are so important, because relationships really are a foundation of who we are as human beings. Everything we do really revolves around relationships. But me and my friend have been talking about relationships real heavily for the past 2 weeks. And then I come across a video from someone that I know. Now, this person I've known for years. And I've watched her start here and grow up here. But I saw a clip from a video. I didn't see the whole video. I just saw a clip. But many people will say depopulation. Someone mentioned on here about being fruitful and multiply. So if we think about it from a practical sense, the first thing that God told us was to be fruitful and multiply. That was like the first thing that God said, okay, I want y'all to do this. So that means out of everything God could have told us, God could have said, don't sin. God could have said, love thy neighbor as thyself. God could have said all these other things. But the first thing God chose to tell us was to be fruitful and to multiply. So that should be a great indication of how important not just family is, but how important relationships are, because it takes the relationships to build the family. So in God's infinite wisdom and understanding, God said, I need to love, because to love is a part of being human. To love is a part of life. These are things that are essential to the basic fundamental building blocks of what we see today. Everything that we see right now came out of love. That lets you know how important love is. It also lets you know why they're trying to remove love. Because if God is love and God is the truth, and God wanted us to be fruitful and multiply, if we get rid of the family, we really get rid of everything in one fell swoop. But not just any family, the man, the woman, and the child. And that man, woman, and child are responsible for what we see on the planet today, all these billions of people. Everybody's so against heterosexuality, but if without it, you wouldn't be here. So a friend of mine that I know, I saw this clip and I wanted to address it because I believe that the appeal of the feminist movement came because women felt that men were getting over. The only way you feel any type of way about anything is because most of the time you feel like somebody's getting something that you're not getting. I was listening to Pastor Darby last night, and he said that life is unfair. And I disagree with that aspect of what he said about life being unfair. I don't believe that life is unfair. I believe that life is fair because life is impartial. Life is just life. God gives us life. So life is what you make it. So at the end of the day, I don't believe that life is fair. I believe that people feel like life is fair based on the circumstances that they've had. Now, based on your circumstances, you only feel slighted because you're looking at someone else's life and saying they didn't have to go through what I'm going through. This same mindset goes with the feminist movement saying that the men get to do this. All this stuff stems from a place of entitlement. Just like, exactly, life builds character. Just like someone saying, well, I'm one of the chosen people. These are all entitlement statements. So if a person said, so the feminist movement is really based in entitlement. So women felt like men were getting over. But any man will tell you, real man will tell you, if a man chooses to be a real man, he's not getting over. If a man chooses to be a real man, he's not getting over, because if he's a real man, he has to guide, he has to provide, and he has to assume the responsibility. That's not an easy task. So there's no man in the world getting over. Now, there are men as far as gender, males possibly getting over, but there's no real man getting over. No real man is getting over when all the responsibilities on him by choice. Not because it has to be, but by choice. So there's no real man getting over. So the whole notion that a lot of women think that men are getting over, so women want to be able to pee standing up. because they felt like it was better to be standing up. Women wanted to do what men could do because they felt like men were getting over. Women didn't want to do what men were doing to make the world better. You see, the whole intent was wrong. There's no feminist, there's no woman that felt like she wanted to be like a man to make the world better. She wanted to be like a man to prove she was just as good as a man or better than a man. All this stuff stems from, really, it's a victim mentality. And the victim mentality, as Pastor Darby was talking about, really comes from a place of entitlement because you feel like you deserve this. You feel like you deserve this based on what life gave you or didn't give you. It could be from the glass half empty, the glass half full. Doesn't matter. It's still from a point of entitlement because you feel like you are just as good or you can do just as much. But men and women are not equal. Now, we are equal in value, but not in our roles. Our roles are different. So what society has told women is because you aren't equal in role, you're not equal in value. We're all equal in God's eyes. Everybody's equal. God's not putting a man over a woman or a woman over a man, but the roles are different. You got to think now, God made Eve for Adam, right? But God had to take Adam to make Eve. So God valued Eve and valued Adam because Eve's purpose was for Adam. So God can't separate how he feels about Adam for Eve because if Adam is sad, that affects Eve. And if Eve is sad, that affects Adam. So God can't separate the man and the woman because he created the man and the woman to be together. So before God even pulled Eve out of Adam, Eve was already in there for an appointed time. Once Adam got done doing what he's supposed to be doing, that's when Eve showed up because God said it wasn't good for man to be alone. But man being alone is not what you all think. It's not about a man being a hermit or being a monk in the mountains. Man being alone really boils down to man's innate nature. And his nature and his purpose is to guide, provide, and assume all the responsibility. It's hard doing that without a woman. So that's why God had to bring Eve into the picture because men are really going to reach their fullest potential when they have a wife. That's just God's design because now the man's not focused on himself. He's focused on his family. That's what drives a man, his family, not himself. Man is rarely motivated to change the world due to self. Man is usually going to change the world or his environment due to how much he loves his family. Anyway, a friend of mine, I saw this clip and I said, here is the problem. Herein lies the problem. The problem is that society has told women that they're good women based on success. So in other words, society has said success makes you a good person. So in women's case, they said that success makes you a good woman. And so what many of women in our community have been doing is they've been chasing success, but they haven't really been chasing being a good wife. I said they've been chasing success, but they have not been chasing being a good wife. But we're going to listen to this clip. And this is no indictment on this person. This person is a wonderful person. I know her personally. She's a good person. I just want to talk about this clip.
Is that women are having, black women in particular, when it comes to becoming a wife?
Keeping it 100,
Yes.
There's not enough eligible black males who fit the needs of black women. By the time you dissect the demographics of finances, sexual orientation, what you end up drilling down into, because black women tend to want to marry black men.
Right.
So black women are excelling. They're getting accelerated degrees, graduate degrees, doctorate degrees. They're starting businesses. Black women are running circles around men.
Right.
And it's also shown in research that women want to marry on their same level of financial and educational status.
Yeah.
So if you're a Black woman making $150,000 a year with a master's degree, you tend to want to marry a Black man on that same level or higher. If Black women are excelling at such an accelerated rate, how do men keep up with that?
Okay, so the lady asked her about being a wife. And this person's married. The lady asked her about being a wife. What did she answer in reply to being a wife? She didn't answer anything about being a wife. She answered with success. And this is what I talk about when I say that women don't reject feminism, because feminism feeds the woman's ego. So she's asking her about being a wife. She's talking about success. We can all agree that being a wife doesn't have a lot to do with you being successful in the workplace or having a degree. We can all agree with that. Okay, I'm gonna say this. So let's take the successful indigenous, melanated, or Black woman. When she was in high school, she got good grades or good enough grades to graduate, right? Then she had enough ambition to go from graduating from high school to going to college. So what she showed is that if she wanted something out of life, she was able to achieve it, right? She showed that if I want to go to college, I got to get good grades in high school to be able to go to college. If I want to get into college, I got to be able to pass that SAT. If I want to graduate from college, I got to do my work and graduate from college. And then when she got out of college, she said, I want to get a job. So she made herself ready and available for the job market. And then when she got hired, she said, I want to advance. So she went and she applied herself and she advanced in her job. She got promoted. So all throughout the woman's life, when she applied herself, she got what she wanted. When she really set her mind and her hearts and her goals were set on a certain task or achievement, she was able to achieve it. So in other words, her goal was success and she achieved success. So throughout her own life, she proved that when she wants something, she can make it happen, which is actually a biblical principle in saying that faith without works is dead. The woman believed in something and she achieved it. So everybody can stand up now and applaud these women for achieving greatness in society. But when it came to being a wife, she said, oh, it's not enough men. Now, I'm pretty sure getting good grades in high school was a challenge. I'm pretty sure passing the SAT or ACT was a challenge back when I was coming up. I'm going to assume that graduating from college was a challenge. I'm going to assume that getting the job was a challenge. I'm going to assume that achieving on the job was a challenge. I'm going to assume that throughout her life, she was presented with challenges and she succeeded. But when it came to being a wife, her solution wasn't how it was in high school. Her solution wasn't how it was in college. Her solution wasn't how it was in the workplace. When it came to being a wife, she said, oh, it's not enough men. How convenient is that? How convenient is it for a woman to prove God right all the way up until it's time to be a wife? Isn't that kind of convenient? Isn't that kind of convenient for you to prove God right all this time? And then when it comes to be a wife, now all of a sudden we remove God out of the equation and we say it's not enough eligible men. How convenient is that? Let's go through this again. Let's listen to her one more time and let's see what she says about being a wife.
What do you think the challenge is that women are having, black women in particular, when it becomes to becoming a wife?
Keeping it 100,
Yes.
there's not enough eligible black males who fit the needs of black women. By the time you dissect the demographics of finances, sexual orientation, what you end up drilling down into, because black women tend to want to marry black men.
Right, right.
So black women are excelling. They're getting accelerated degrees, graduate degrees, doctorate degrees. They're starting businesses. Black women are running circles around men.
Right.
And it's also shown in research that women want to marry on their same level of financial and educational status.
Yeah.
So if you're a black woman making $150,000 a year with a master's degree, you tend to want to marry a black man on that same level or higher. If black women are excelling at such an accelerated rate, how do men keep up with that?
What do you think the challenge is that women are having, black?
Now, let me ask you a question. When it came to the advancement of women, do you think men were involved in it? When it came to the advancement of women, do you think men signed off on women advancing in society? If men were in charge of everything and men were controlling everything, do you think men signed off on women advancing in society? The answer is yes. So let's just say, for argument's sake, what she's saying is true. If what she's saying is true, then why aren't women coming up with a plan to advance the men? If what she's saying is true, then why aren't women coming up with a plan to advance the men? If it's such a big problem and it's such a thing that's keeping you from getting married, then why wouldn't you all come together with a plan to make sure that you would have some eligible husbands? Now, when I hear the word running circles around men, that is an ego-driven statement. And at the end of the day, we can agree that when women were in a place in society, men had to decide for women to advance, which means that men had a change of heart somewhere along in society. Men had a change of heart somewhere along in society. And so what I'm saying is, if we're talking about relationships, the question is, how important are relationships? Most people aren't going to say 11 or 12. So if you want to be a wife and you've proven to the world and God, even to the point where you can say that women are running circles around men, if that's the case, then why aren't women able to be wives? And in particular, let's talk about the group of women that are the least likely to get married. You can't say on one hand that black women are the most successful and then say on the other hand, but they're not able to be wise because of black men. That's not how that works. Because once you achieve greatness, people expect greatness from you. So to whom much is given, much is required. If we can all agree that life is a give and take, right? Everybody would agree that life is a give and take. So if you want to be a star athlete, you would have to give your time and sacrifice your body. Maybe even your social life. You would have to give up a lot to be a successful athlete, right? Okay, so life is a give and it's a take. So once you give as an athlete, what do you take? You take success, you take fame, you take notoriety, you take opportunity. So life is a give and life is a take. Everybody would agree with that. So women give their time, their energy, and their efforts to be successful. They give all of these things to be successful in high school, in college, and in the workplace. That's what they're giving. So they're giving time, effort, energy, and all that. What are they taking? They're taking success, admiration, all these great things, but also they're taking a position to possibly not be a wife. You see, he that findeth a wife findeth a good thing. So if a man is finding a wife, that means she's already a wife. So tell me or explain to me how you were able to do all these great things in life and have enough energy and have enough left over in the tank to be a wife. If life is a give and take, because most athletes dedicate their life to being athletes. Most businessmen dedicate their lives to being businessmen. So how are you able to dedicate your entire life to being a successful woman and then have enough left over to be a wife? It's almost impossible. You see, what many of us don't realize is that in order for it to be real, you got to qualify for it. So I realized a few years ago that I can't be out here in the streets if I want a wife. Because I'm telling the universe, I don't honor what I'm saying. I'm sending the universe mixed signals. I'm telling God his word ain't true. I'm sending the universe mixed signals. Because the universe gonna operate off of what I put in is what I'm gonna get out. So God is already knowing, well, he ain't listening to me because he in the streets. So now the universe is saying, okay, if you put this in, you get this out. So how can I give my time and energy to the streets, but then expect a wife? Better yet, how can I give my life to the streets and then take away from that a wife? I was talking with a friend of mine one time and I told him, I said, the purpose of the game is for you to get you a family. The purpose of all of this stuff is for you to have a family. So I'm trying to understand in all this running circles around men, all this success, all this stuff, when did you find time to be a wife? The woman asked her about being a wife, and nothing she said involved the character of the woman. This lets me know that many women, even though they're married, don't understand what it takes to be a wife, which is why most folks that get married, they aren't happy. I said most women that get married, most people get married aren't happy. How do we know this? Because 80% of divorces are filed by women. So we know that most women aren't happy when they get married. Most men don't file for divorce. 20% do. So that means if a man marries you 8 times out of 10, he's going to stay with you no matter how bad the relationship is. Because more men operate off of principle than women do. Women are told how they feel trumps everything. And then they say, well, love conquers all. And then they say love conquers all. But that's out of context. Because love is selfless. Love is giving. Love is all these things that most people don't want to do or be. Love is accountable. I'm accountable to you because I love you. So love is all the things most folks don't want to be. So love only conquers all when you have some character. So my boy said, so eloquently said, love doesn't conquer all, but character does. And he's 100% correct. That's how we get from happy wife, happy life to happy house, happy spouse. So the studies show that the women in our community go to church more than any demographic. The women in our community go to church more than any demographic. The study also said that the women of our community pray more than any demographic. So you mean to tell me the women in our community are going to church more and praying the most, but getting the worst results when it comes to marriage? Somebody's lying. Somebody's lying. Somebody's lying. How are our women going to church the most and praying the most, but getting the worst results. It's because someone is lying. Somebody said, but who are they praying to? Exactly. I tell people that God doesn't exist in desperation. God says that faith without works is dead. God says, come to the throne boldly. God says, be hot or cold. So God is telling you to take a stance when it comes to the things of God. God does not exist in desperation, meaning you throwing a Hail Mary down the field is not the same as you going to the sideline drawing up a play. I'll say it again. You throwing a Hail Mary downfield is not the same as you going to the sideline drawing up a play. Because drawing up that play is going to require a level of faith. Throwing that ball in the air is hope. Faith comes from the sideline because you planned. Faith without works is dead. So you put yourself in a position to exercise your faith, not just blindly hoping that you make it. And so what I see a lot of women do it is, a lot of women are hoping they find a good man versus being a wife to be found by a husband. Those are two different approaches to life. Is when it came to their success in life, all these women were very proactive. They said, I got to do A, B, C, and D to get to this position in life, and they did it. The irony is when it came to being a wife, though, they threw away the playbook. When it came to being a wife, these women threw away the playbook and started throwing Hail Marys. Now, wait a minute. How in the world did you go from saying you got to do A, B, C, and D and achieving it to when it came to being a wife, you said, oh, well, I'm going to close my eyes, throw the ball down the field, and hope I win the game? So the problem I see, and it stems from women believing that men are somehow getting over. And so because women felt like men were getting over, the woman's approach became different when it came to equality. Most women, if you ask them, don't want to do what men do. Most women don't want to do it. But if you ask most women, do they want the praise and the credit for doing it, they're going to say yes. And so when it comes to the women of my community, I want to caution you all to this type of thinking because there's a give and take in life, and life is about balance. And if we agree that life is about balance, then you are getting all this success. Life is going to balance everything out. So if you invest all of your time into being a successful woman, you don't leave much time to be a wife. So you got to ask yourself, how important are relationships? If relationships are 5, 6, and 7, then it explains why you're getting the results that you are getting. But if a relationship is 10, 11, or 12, then I guarantee you're going to see different results. I was always taught that what does it profit a man to gain the world and lose his soul? That piece of wisdom was for women also. What does it profit a woman to gain all this success and then in the process she disqualifies herself from being a wife? Whoso findeth a wife findeth a good thing. So that means if a man is looking for a wife, what's going to make him look at you as a wife versus someone just to sleep with? When it came to the tale of the virgins, that had the oil in their lamp. The other women burnt their oil up. They didn't have enough oil. And so they wanted to have their lamps lit when the bridegroom came. So in other words, imagine a bunch of women in the dark with lamps, and you had the lamps lit so that when the men come, they know where you are. Now imagine some women with those same lamps wandering around over here, over there, burning that lamp oil when they shouldn't have been, burning it over here, using it over there, and they don't have enough. Imagine a bunch of women going out here. Imagine a bunch of women going out here, doing everything, investing everything into everything else except being a wife. Imagine investing in everything except being in a wife. What do you think you're going to reap? You're going to reap everything except being a wife. Society's telling a lot of you women that you can put 75 cents in the vending machine even though the vending machine clearly says $1. Society's telling you all that you can put in 75 cents and still get an item that's worth $1. Now, I remember being in school, elementary school, we had a vending machine, and there was this guy, and there was this guy by the name of Ken McNeely. And Big Ken, we called Big Ken, we wanted some snacks, we didn't have any money. We called Big Ken to shake that vending machine. And Big Ken to shake it. Boom, boom, boom. Boy, that thing be raining snacks to the bottom. Big Ken to push that thing and knock it down. But guess what? We was stealing. And I was in private school stealing, so it was a double offense. I was stealing in God's house. So I'm telling you, we didn't qualify what was in that vending machine, so we had to do what? We had to cheat. We had to break the rules. So now we fast forward, we got a lot of women that didn't put the money in the vending machine, but they want to get being a wife out of it. The wife vending machine says, the husband vending machine says $1. We got a lot of women putting in 75 cents, putting in 50 cents. A lot of y'all putting in 25 cents, but you wanting that husband for $1 out of the vending machine. And when you can't get that husband, you start shaking the vending machine. You start rocking it to make the stuff fall out. That's why you all are suffering. There's no way you can make me believe in God's beautiful earth that for every good woman, there isn't a good man. There's no way on God's green earth you can make me believe that for every good woman, there isn't a good man. The problem is, instead of developing your character, it's just easier to say there's not enough men. Even though, listen to the video, she didn't disqualify the men from being good men. She just said what? They didn't make enough money. So now we're disqualified from being a husband because you make more money than us. But common sense would tell me, if I was the woman and I had the means to do it and I wanted the husband, y'all can figure out a way for the husband to make money. Or just do like you're supposed to do and become one flesh, and now your $150,000 a year is both of y'all's money. So if he makes $50,000 and you make $150,000, when y'all come together, y'all got $200,000 because y'all become one flesh. But your pride and your ego can't let you do that. And that's the real issue. The real issue is, how you think I'm finna let this man, I'm finna split my money with this man? You think I'm finna split my money with this man? That's the issue. The issue is y'all aren't willing to become one flesh with the man, where his money is your money and your money is his money. Oh, I know. Because he don't make as much as you gonna feel like what? He's getting over. And now we go all the way back to the foundation of feminism, which is women feeling like men were getting over. Women feeling like men were getting over. And a real man can't ever get over because he never puts himself in a position to get over. He's always putting his wife and his children and his community before himself. So a real man can never get over in life. He would allow himself to. Let's go back to what she said again. We can listen again. Let's go back one more time.
What do you think the challenge is that women are having, black women in particular, when it becomes to becoming a wife?
Keeping it 100,
Yes.
there's not enough eligible black males who fit the needs of black women. By the time you dissect the demographics of finances, sexual orientation, what you end up drilling down into, because black women tend to want to marry black men.
Right, right.
So black women are excelling. They're getting accelerated degrees, graduate degrees, doctorate degrees. They're starting businesses. Black women are running circles around men.
Right.
And it's also shown in research that women want to marry on their same level of financial and educational status.
Yeah.
So if you're a black woman making $150,000 a year with a master's degree, you tend to want to marry a black man on that same level or higher. If black women are excelling at such an accelerated rate, how do men keep up with that?
So, again, she asked her about being a wife, and everything she listed was about success in the world. What does it profit a man to gain the world but lose his soul? His soul. Somebody said it sounds like women looking for wives. Again, where we are is by choice. So that means that if you're not married, it's your fault. I'm not married, it's my fault. I'm not rich, that's my fault. I'm not where I need to be in life, that's my fault. So what makes me believe that if all of this in my life is my fault, that because you're not married, it's somebody else's fault? Every other time in your life, you took the initiative to make it your fault to the point where you said, I got to succeed and achieve in life, and you did it. So I just find it quite convenient that you all showed all along the way that when you apply yourself, you get results. But when it came to being a wife, y'all sat back, folded your arms, and say, there's not enough men. And no one can convince me that for every good woman, there's not a good man. Because it's all about balance in this existence. Everything is about balance. Everything. So the notion that there aren't enough black men is false. Now, what you women should start saying is, IG pause. Now, what you all should start saying is, there's not enough black men that meet our worldly standards. Say that. I haven't heard any of you women say that the men aren't meeting God's standards. I know the men are not seeking, the men that you all are seeking, you have not measured them based on God's standards. So at the end of the day, this whole journey that we're on is one of character. And women aren't getting married from our community because the women in our community have adopted an ideology that is way different than our grandmothers. The women in our community have adopted an ideology that's way different than our grandmother. My grandmother was a nurse. My grandfather worked on the railroad. My grandmother was a nurse, and my grandfather worked on the railroad. Now, fast forward that to today. Fast forward my grandmother making $250,000 a year and my grandfather making, I don't know, 90. Do you think my grandmother's going to sacrifice a home for the sake of saying, I want to find a man that makes as much as me? Do you want to be happy? Do you want a good husband? This is why when you all are dating people, ask them how important are relationships. Ask them. Ask the person how important are relationships on a scale of 1 to 10. If they don't say 10, if they don't say 11, if they don't say 12 and up, then I can almost guarantee they're not going to be good for you. I was talking with someone and they said that love was a lot of different things. And I said, to me, love is food. Because love is what prompted God to create. So love to me is the very essence of life. To me, it's not ambiguous. What love is God. We try to make it deep, try to make it all this stuff, but God is love. And God so loved that God not only created, but God gave. So most women think they qualify for something because they are successful. But that was a view of thinking that a man's success meant he was getting over. When in actuality, a real man has always had the weight of the world on his shoulders because he chose to. Much like Christ chose to get up on the cross, is the same way a man chooses to be responsible, to want to guide, to want to provide, and to want to assume responsibility. There is no real man getting over in the world. None. There are men getting over, but there's no real man getting over. You see, when Christ was in the garden, he said, take this cup from me. And many people think he was being a coward. Many people argue and say he was being a coward. But as I got older, I realized that that was courage. You know why that was courage? Because he allowed himself to be human. You see, the beautiful thing about Yeshua, Jesus, the Messiah, Emmanuel, Christ, the beautiful thing about him is that he didn't cheat the system. He allowed himself to be human. He did something that most people wouldn't do, which is to allow themselves to be human. That means he allowed himself to have human emotions. I don't want to get up on that cross, but nevertheless, I'm going to do it because it's not about what I want. It's about what has to be done. So many women can tell me they wife material. Many people can tell me they deserve a husband. But I'm going to ask you, what have you done to ensure that? You can't tell me you dedicated your whole life and y'all love them speeches. I done had to do this my whole life and do this. I had to fight and study and do this and work hard and all. Did all that. Then when did you have time to be a wife? If a man is going to find a wife, how in the world you going to be a wife if you gave everything to be successful? Which means you gave everything to the world. What does it profit a woman to gain the world and lose her husband? What does it profit a woman to gain the world and lose a husband? It's a bunch of people that are married, giving married advice, but they're not really married because they're not happy. A lot of folks is fronting for y'all. I talk to these men that are married, and they tell me a whole different story than what y'all hear on social media and TV. Anybody can post a video, anybody can take a picture, anybody can sound like they're in love. But I talk to these men and women off the cuff, and what they tell me is a lot different than what they show y'all. What does it profit a woman to gain the world and lose her husband? So y'all can tell me that being successful qualifies you as being a wife, but that's not what God says. That's not what God says. You see, God's going to honor our heart. So God's going to honor your heart. The universe is going to honor your intent. You're dealing with two different things. So God gives you grace and mercy because God knows you foolish. The universe strictly going off your intent. So at the end of the day, you got to ask yourself, am I really wife material? And if I am wife material, why haven't I got chosen to be a wife? I got chosen when it came to college. When I filled the application out, they took my application and they chose me. I got chosen when I got that job because they looked at my resume and hired me based on that resume. I got the job. So I got chose for the college. I got chose for my job. I even got chose to get a promotion. So throughout my life, I've been getting chosen. And the one time I'm supposed to get chosen, nobody's choosing me. What are the chances? You defy all the odds getting chosen to go to college. You defy all the odds getting chosen for that job. You defy all the odds getting chosen for that position. Because in each one of those scenarios, there are a limited amount of spaces. So that means you defeated the odds when it came to get chose. But when it comes to being a wife, a situation where every woman has the potential to be a wife. Every woman, so you have a better chance of being a wife than you do getting selected to go to college. You have a better chance of being a wife than you do getting selected for a job. You have a better chance of being a wife than you do being selected for a promotion. So you mean to tell me in something where you have the greatest odds, nobody's picking you? Make that make sense. Make that make sense. The situation where you have the greatest odds, even God is on your side. Even the Most High is on your side with you being a wife. You mean to tell me with everything in your favor to being a wife, you got to be a woman, you got to be a good woman, and God said you those two things you finna get found. Everything is saying you could be a wife, and you mean to tell me the one scenario in your life where you got all the cards on the table, all the chips in your favor, nobody's picking it. And you want me to believe it's because there aren't enough good men out there. I don't even want to go through the statistics. I simply want to say you're not married because you're not a wife. I'm not married because I'm not a husband. It's not rocket science. We ain't got to make it deep. Don't nobody care about your degrees or your success. A man's going to say, how is this woman going to be good for my life? And an even deeper conversation the man has with himself, the man says, am I willing to lay down my life for this woman? Am I willing to lay down my life for this woman? That man don't even talk to y'all about that, women. That man has that conversation between himself and God. He don't even involve you in it. That man's making up in his mind whether he's willing to die for you or not. Y'all ain't going through that when y'all picking a man. Y'all ain't having them kind of soul-searching conversations when y'all are picking a man. Ain't no way. Because half of y'all wouldn't have been who y'all been with. Half of y'all wouldn't have been with who you are with. Men have soul-searching conversation when it comes to finding a wife. Soul-searching. Am I willing to die for this woman? Period. Am I willing to die for this woman? Period. And y'all want me to believe that a man is disqualified because he knows you done invested your entire life into being successful. You done invested your entire life to being of this world, and you expect this man to pick you and give his life for a woman that has invested all of her energy and time into the world. You are out of your mind. No real man is going to do it. You can find you a simp to do it. You can find you a sucker to do it. You can find you a buster to do it, but ain't no real man finna choose you after you chose the world. You know what? I got my degrees. I got my house. I got my car. I'm successful. Now it's time to find a husband. That's not how that works. That's totally out of order. That's what men do because men have to provide. Now, ladies, if you're doing all of that and in your mind you're thinking you're going to be the provider, then I get it. But y'all aren't thinking that way. Y'all are achieving for self-gratification. And then you want to find a man on the back end. And then you have the audacity to say that there aren't enough black men. And we all know if the universe is about balance, that means for every good woman, there's a good man. The problem is a lot of y'all are imposters. You saying you a good woman, but ain't no men validating that. Guess why? Because you ain't married. So the same way y'all look at stats, we can look at them too. Y'all are the least likely to get married and the least likely to get picked in online dating. So even when the scenario is an even playing field, men are still not choosing you. And it's not because you all aren't worthy of being wives. It isn't because you all aren't attractive. Those aren't the reasons. It's what does a man see when he sees you? Does he see a successful woman or does he see a wife? You see, you can be a successful woman and be a wife. There's a study that came out and the study said that the higher a woman's IQ is, the less likely she is to get married. The higher a woman's IQ is, the less likely she is to get married. Now, do you think that stat is the same for men? Of course not. The higher a man's IQ is, the more likely he will get married. What does that tell you? The higher a woman's IQ get married. The higher a man's IQ is, the more likely he is to get married. What does that tell you? That tells you that usually when a woman has higher IQ, let's just say ambition, let's just say great wit, let's just say great gifts, skills, and talents, they usually use those things to achieve in the world. When men have those gifts and talents and all those things, they usually choose them to have a family. This is why God set it up the way God set it up. Because if Eve act like you all, not only would she have given Adam the fruit, she would have also divorced him. Matter of fact, if Eve acted like y'all, God would have had to start over. And what I hear, they said it was Lilith first. She had wings and she flew off. She didn't want to be his wife. She left independent. Lilith left. Then he had Eve. So according to the legend, Lilith was first. Lilith was the first independent, successful woman. She had wings. She could fly everything. And guess what? When you gave that woman wings, she never stayed at home. Isn't that crazy? When Lilith had wings, she never wanted to be with Adam. Eve didn't have no wings. She might have gave him the fruit, but she still wanted to be with him. And I don't even really blame Eve that much for the fruit. I'm just telling you, Eve taking that fruit is the root of a woman's ego. Because the devil basically told her, if you eat it, you're going to be like God. And she even said, I know. So Satan appealed to the woman's ego. And in these relationships, the devil going to always come to the woman first. And he going to always play on that woman's ego. He going to always go to that ego. Now, what Adam should have did was Adam should have said, listen, woman, I'm not taking the fruit. You shouldn't have ate it. Or after he ate it and God confronted him, he should have said, not that it's the woman's fault. Adam should have said, it's my fault. I shouldn't have ate it. And I should have made sure that she wasn't even around to even be tempted by the serpent. Because a man is going to what? Guide, provide, and assume responsibility. So you see, Adam was in charge of not just the garden, but also the safety of Eve. Ain't no real man getting over. Ain't no real man getting over. And the same way that women failed the test in the garden are the same way that men are failing the test today. Because the men got to say, it's our responsibility, it's our fault. That's the only way to fix the problem. And guess what? Men, once we say that and we mean it, if our women don't want to oblige by what we're saying, then guess what? We go elsewhere. There are plenty of women on the earth that want to be led by you regardless of your perceived race or skin color. So at the end of the day, everybody is where they are in life because they chose to be here. Men are here because they chose to be here. Women are here because they chose to be here. Everything is your fault. Everything is your fault. So if you're not getting married, it's because you're not wife material. I don't care about what you say. I'm just looking at who wants to marry you. And if a guy of low character wants to marry you, you're not a wife. If a guy of low character marries you, you're not a wife. If a simp marries you, you're not a wife. It doesn't count. You're only a wife when a righteous man of character wants to marry you, because that is the highest standard. Not because he got a nice car, not because he has money, not because he has a house, not because he's famous, not because he looks good. Does the man have character? Is the man righteous? That's the highest standard. That's the highest standard. Him being righteous and him having character, not success. So if the righteous man doesn't want you, that lets you know where you stand. And I don't want to make a blanket statement because there is compatibility, there is chemistry and all those things. But I can almost guarantee this: if you're a good woman, a good man is at least going to be there for you. He might not marry you, but he'll be in the vicinity to lend his assistance if you're a good woman. So ask yourself the question, ladies. If I dedicated myself to all these things in life and saw results and became successful, why am I not successful when it comes to being a wife? And the possibility might be that maybe you're not putting forth the same energy you put forth towards the world that you are towards being a wife. And at the end of the day, you got to look at these things not as a victim, because you're not a victim. Look at these things from a position of power, meaning that out of all this stuff on this planet, out of all this stuff in this world, out of everything we've gone through, God still gives us the gift of choice. God still gives us the gift of choice. So as long as we can choose, we got a chance. So I'm telling y'all today, ladies, choose to be wives. I'm telling you today, men, choose to be husbands. At the end of the day, everybody is where they're at by a choice and decisions that we have made. But I do not believe that for every good woman out there, there's less men. I don't believe that. For every good woman, there's a good man. That is how God intended it. Otherwise, God couldn't hold you to the standards that God holds you to if the stuff wasn't balanced, if it wasn't equal, if it wasn't fair. I'm not talking about worldly equality or worldly fair or worldly standard. I'm talking about God's standards. When it comes to God's standards, God gives every person a measure of faith. How you choose to work that faith is up to you, but God gives it to everybody. That means your faith growing is up to you. Your faith growing is up to you. Not a man, not a woman, not God, to you. So life is fair because life is about what you make it. So if you want to be married, ladies, then become a wife. Stop listening to all these other women giving y'all some stuff that has never worked. It's funny to me that women are more outspoken about relationships now more than ever, and there are less women getting married. How does that work? How is it that when women started dominating the relationship market, less women got married? Explain that to me. Somebody explain to me how when women took over the relationship advice market, less women got married. Explain it to me. I'll tell you, because the intent behind it was never righteous. The intent behind it was to pass blame. The intent behind it was to make excuses. And somebody said, and having babies. So now we got, when women have taken over the relationship advice market, women are not getting married and they having more children out of wedlock. Explain to me how that's working. This goes for everybody because it's about accountability. But women aren't married not because of a shortage of good men. Women aren't married because they aren't wives. And when you talk to women that are married, I guarantee they talk a little different than single women. I can almost guarantee it. I can almost guarantee it. At the end of the day, God intended for us to be together. God intended for man and woman to be together. God never said that man was above woman and that woman was below man. God just put man in a leadership position because that is a role for the man. But the woman also has a role. We're all equal in value, but not in our roles. And just because she's a stay-at-home wife and he's out there making the bacon doesn't mean her role or her value is diminished. We're all equal in value. We all contribute. So if y'all women gonna brag about being successful, make sure you all are bragging about how you also being a wife. You can't invest all this time and energy to being successful for the world and then on the back end expect a man, a husband, to give his life to that. He's not going to do it because he won't see value in it. So at the end of the day, you all, this is for all of us. This is for us to come together, set our pride to the side, set our egos to the side, and actually start learning how to love each other. Stop going on so many dates. Have conversations. Have questions. Stop going on dates. Do building exercises together. Do team building exercises. Do character building exercises. Read books together. Stop going on dates. Exhaust the conversation. Really get to know someone. Stop going on dates. Stop having sex. Stop screwing. Exhaust the conversation. At the end of the day, your way is not going to work, and it shows. Your way doesn't work, and it will never work. They're already talking about putting a womb in a man. Your way didn't work. We've tried it the woman's way, and now they're talking about putting a womb in a man. We tried it the woman's way, and now men are going to take over being women. Your way is not going to work. The only way that's going to work is God's way. So when a man findeth the wife, he findeth the good thing, and to cap it all off, and he obtains favor from the Lord. Why does he obtain favor? Because God knew what it took for that woman to be a wife in this world before she got married. I'm going to say it again because Instagram cut off. The reason why the man obtains favor because when he finds a wife is because God knew what it took for a woman to become a wife before she was married. And God knew what it took for a man to become a husband before he found a wife. And God is going to honor that. God ain't going to have you sacrificing and being obedient, and God's not going to reward you. God is a rewarder of those that diligently seek him. God is a rewarder of those that are obedient. So God's going to reward you, ladies, for being a wife before you get married. God's going to reward you just like the world did. So if the world's going to reward you for being a wife before you find a husband, if the world's going to reward you for being successful and giving your all, what do you think God's going to do when it comes to you being a wife? And what do you think a man's going to do when it comes to you being a wife? I love you all. Imagine No Colors. If you want to go live, I can go live in the car. I'm about to go to my crowd therapy. But listen, you all, I love you all. Thank y'all so much. And if I go live again, it'll be with Imagine No Colors when I'm in the car. So thank y'all, and I love y'all, and God be blessed. And ladies, you all can be wives if you choose to be. Men, you all can be husbands if you choose to be. But really, you're already a wife and a husband. You just got to accept it. I love y'all, and thank